Well, hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. It's said a lot of times that people are really excited about the guests that they have join them. And I have to say, I'm going to introduce Bryan. You can see him on your screen right now, Bryan S. Bloom. He is the author of a 3-book series called The Confessions of a CPA. And I am delighted because I really think, my mission in life sort of intersects almost perfectly with what Bryan has shared with the public through some of his other interviews, the books that he's written. And you can see the passion, the effort that was put forth in writing these books, because the detail is really simplified. I think for the layperson, it might take a little bit of time reading it a couple times, 2 or 3 times. I'm in this business, so I understand it a little bit better. But I want to introduce Bryan, and thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it, Bryan.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, John.
You're welcome. I did want to make a quick comment about what today is, which is November 3rd, 2020. It is election day in the United States, and it's been quite a year, as we all know. It's been a unique year in our existence as humans, as individuals. And today is a day of choice. You have the right, you still have the freedom, and we all have a lot of freedom. We talk about some of the freedoms that are being taken from us, but I think the freedom of knowledge, the freedom to learn, the freedom to have an open mind, and still make choices with your life is huge. And I think that's really where we're going with this discussion today. You and I both have had choices in our life of what we would do, for fun, but do for work, do for a vocation. And you're clearly a very sharp guy, and you could have done so many different things, but you chose a path because you love numbers, right?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. And so rather than me do all the talking, I do want to get you involved in the conversation, but I really feel like we have an opportunity to share something that is uncommon. And that is I'm borrowing that from, some of the text in your book and some of your words, which is there's uncommon knowledge. There's a blind spot. So can you talk a little bit about what that means, and how do we get people to step outside of that place where they're limiting themselves and what they see?
Yeah, we all limit ourselves because we have in place what this thing I call our safety box, our a box of comfort. It's where we feel most comfortable in our decision making and in moving forward, and it's pretty much limited to our knowledge. Okay, so our box of comfort is our box of knowledge, and we gravitate to the middle of that box because that's where we feel the safest. However, our eyes are not opened until we step outside of our comfort zone and experience different things. So for instance, if you're driving a car, now technology has changed this illustration a little bit, but if you're driving a car, 80% of your time you're spent looking straight forward in regards to where you're going, so you don't run into things. Occasionally you'll look in the rear view mirror and the side view mirrors, but there's always that blind spot. And let me get my posture right so I can do this right. So if you're driving along, you can look forward, you can look up into the rear view mirror to see what's coming behind you. You can look into each of the side view mirrors, but unless you turn your head 20 degrees, you'll miss the car that's in your blind spot and you'll hit it
Mm.
and you'll cause a disaster. And that's all stepping out of your comfort zone is all about. Just turn your head 20 degrees, look to where there may be something you don't know or you feel uncomfortable about, and check it out. Now, how do you get comfortable with understanding what's in that blind spot? Well, you just make your box bigger. And that's through education and understanding. And then you can gravitate back to the middle, but you will have taken advantage of uncommon knowledge, which is that you can't see.
Yeah. That's interesting. You know, I feel like you're exactly right that it is about this safety. You know, I feel safer if I stay within these confines, right? But really, you're less safe, right? You're less safe by not
Oh,
turning and looking, right?
yeah. I mean, we could have a whole different session, but you know, you can talk about safety and are you safer with your house paid off or are you safer with your house with a mortgage on it? And
Mm.
I can sit here and make an argument for you that you are more safe with a mortgage than having it paid off. But that's a
I
different topic.
I have my own thoughts on that too. I mean, and I wonder if it would align.
Yeah, but conventional wisdom would say you're safer with your house paid off. And that's where we feel most comfortable. But just this whole idea of maybe not having your house. I mean, come on.
There's so much.
I'm 65 and I'm about to sign my next 30-year loan. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the mortgage lender, I'm filling out the application. The mortgage lender's going, well, Mr. Bloom, wait a minute. A 30-year, are you sure? In 30 years, you're going to be 90. I go, right. That's exactly right. And the way I look at it is if I die at 88, which is where I'm supposed to be, I think I just shaved 7 years off my amortization schedule, didn't I?
Very cute. Very cute.
So that's 7 years of house payments I'm not going to have to make because I have a house payment.
Yeah.
You see, now we can get into all the nitty gritty and all the details of, you know, well, you're paying interest and blah, 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 blah. But I'm telling you, step out of your box, look into your blind spot, where no mirror shows, and get some education and understanding about what you don't see, because what you don't know may be more important than what you do know.
Well, that's interesting because I wonder if it's if I start to know things, then I got to address it. You know, like if I
You're
actually,
responsible.
right? Like if I just keep myself, you know, keep that hidden from me, then I don't have to address it, right? I just say, well, and then I can play the blame game, right? I can blame it on government and blame it on everything.
John, if you stick your head in the sand, just like an ostrich, what's sticking up? It's a
It's
target.
not.
It's a target.
Yeah, it's a target. Yeah. So this is, I hope you can see it. I'm not sure if it's reflecting, but I'm picking up your book. And I want to talk to the audience, to the viewers, about your credentials, so to speak, right? Okay. So you're a CPA?
Yep. Practicing for over 35 years.
You're Series 7, yeah, all that. So you can sell stocks and bonds.
Right.
You could set up 401ks for employers.
I used to be a 401k administrator.
Right.
I used to be a third-party administrator for private 401k plans.
Which really got you started down the road.
No, it was the second. That was the second phase. The first phase, I was also the chief financial officer of a public employee retirement system.
Oh,
so
wow.
I got to see the history of how public employment retirement works. And then I got to understand how private retirement works. Yep. And then light bulbs started going off going, wow.
So you say public, you're talking about pension plans.
Yeah,
right?
Pension plans, yeah. Right.
Yeah. Which are basically annuities, right? So you can sell annuities if you wanted. You could sell variable life. You could sell universal life, index universal life.
I don't do real estate and I'm not an attorney.
Okay. Okay.
But
so
beyond that, we're good.
Yeah, we'll extract things as opposed to saying the long list of credentials that you do have. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because you focus this 3-book series that's really on permanent life insurance, and in particular, whole life insurance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that that's the foundation, the strong foundation for people's prosperity? Is that why you focused all 3 of these books on whole life, really, for the most part?
Would you rather own the original Mona Lisa, or would you like to own a copy that may have been improved upon?
The original.
Well, whole life insurance is the original life insurance contract, hundreds of years old.
Okay.
And every improvement that has been made to whole life insurance has done nothing more than put the insurance company in more control over the contract than you.
Mm. So that hasn't been a positive. All the
No.
changes have not been positive.
I mean, think about it, John. Why would they change a product for your benefit?
It's kind of like,
No.
right?
Right, come on.
Yeah, yeah. So so you have subtitles to
Yeah.
all 3 books are called The Confessions of a CPA.
Yeah.
But you have one book with the subtitle, The Capital Equivalent Value of Life Insurance. And I wanted to take a moment, there was basically a testimonial or an afterword by a gentleman named John. And it states that it's easy to do whatever everyone else is doing. The same as, both of us are we're able to sell life insurance. We're both life insurance agents, producers, what have you. But I could have done other things with my life, or I could have gone the easier road and I could have tried to sell stocks and bonds, because that's what's, the marketing machine's already there for me, right? And for you, and you're kind of going against the grain, obviously. Yeah. And that seems to be the history of my life, is that I typically go against the grain. But I think it's important to point out that you still have all these choices, but you focus. And how soon do you bring up life insurance when you're sitting in front of a new client? You have you're a CPA for that client maybe, but when does that come up? Is that the first discussion you have with them to find out if they have it, what they're doing with it?
Yeah, it comes up only when the client recognizes that they have severe problems in what they've chosen to do currently. Unless the client owns up to the fact that they are increasing their debt every day they go to work, rather than decreasing their debt by paying off their credit cards, until they recognize that they have a huge problem, only then will I go into the issues of what some of the solutions might be, one of which would be a life insurance solution. But only when the client owns their problem, then it comes up.
That's huge, right?
Yeah.
Owning their problem.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I want to try to cover today, but one of the things is you use an analogy. You talk about Mount Everest, but really it's about it's distribution focus. So most of what people do is focus on this accumulation, building up the pile of money, but they're not thinking about how do I get back down. So maybe you could tell everybody the story or the analogy.
No, I think Mount Everest is a great analogy to talk about. And John, I'll just use you as my guinea pig here. But if you had the ability to climb Mount Everest and you're at the base of that great mountain and you looked up at it and you said, I want to climb Mount Everest, what would be your goal?
To be looking down from the top.
Yeah.
But obviously to live,
yeah.
to survive.
Well, that's not what everyone says. So most everybody will immediately say, well, to get to the top, of course, Bryan, why else would I try to climb it if I had the ability? But then when you look at the statistic and understand that 56% of all the deaths on Mount Everest occur after the climber got to the top, now we begin to reshape our thinking, think out of the box and go, getting to the top may not be all that important if I don't get back home to show people my pictures.
Right.
And so now our goal changes. It's not to get to the top, it's to get back home again. So in
Right.
order to do that in the physical Mount Everest, that means you have to take tools with you on the climb that you will not need until the descent.
Mm,
You have to take extra weight because the
mm,
tools you need on the descent are different than the tools you need on the ascent.
mm.
Because
Wow.
the boulders might be the same, but their force of nature is just the opposite. You think about it, when you're going up, the boulders are all pushing against what you want to do. But on the other side, on the way down, all the boulders are accelerating your descent. One side is hazardous, the other side is dangerous. And each
Mm,
side needs a different set of tools, but you have to take the downward tools with you on the ascent. And that's just going to weigh you down
yeah.
and hinder you from getting to that. Well, the same thing is true with finances and retirement planning. You know, if you think you're going to win this game by not paying your taxes on the way up, I mean, after all, you'll have more money to work with, so you should get to your goal faster. But then you realize that on the way down, not only are you going to have to pay the taxes you didn't pay, but they compound over time, and you have no control on what the government's going to do to the tax system on your way down. And so
Right.
you have to have the distribution tools to get the money out of your 401k plan or whatever you're choosing to put your money in for retirement. You have to understand the exit strategy while you're accumulating. And the exit strategy is merely the descent off of Mount Everest.
Yeah, it sort of struck me when I was thinking about talking with you is so many terms are thrown around so often that people almost forget what their meaning is. So financial planning, like a plan is inside planning, like what is the plan? And the plan has to be the full plan. It can't be just half the plan, right?
Mhm.
And so you have to plan what's that? Why am I even doing, like to your point, why am I even climbing the mountain
Right,
if I can't live through it to say I climbed the mountain?
right. So let's talk about Sherpas, because on your quest on Mount Everest, you're going to hire a Sherpa, right?
Yeah.
You want a Sherpa who's skilled at getting to the top, or do you want a Sherpa who's skilled at getting back home?
I would say I want both, but
Right.
I
But financially, who do we hire? Do we hire
we
a Sherpa who's
only the
skilled
guy
at
to get up.
accumulation? Yeah,
Yeah.
only the guy who, because that's all they're interested in. Come on, financial advisors charge a fee, and they
Right.
only get paid when your account balance goes up. How much
Yep.
interest do you think they have in you on your way down? Not a lot.
They're non-existent. They've
Because as you
disappeared.
take money out, they take a pay decrease.
Right.
They're
Right.
not going to, they don't want to help you get the money out. So you got
Well,
to have the right Sherpa.
I think that's it wasn't where I was planning on
I know.
going. No, it's fine. No, it's fine. It's because it's about this idea of, and it's not to beat up on the industry, but they get paid off of assets for the most part, unless they're fee based. Okay. But still, you could probably talk to that. But the fact is that they want people to keep their money in. And in fact, I feel the same about what the change that was just made to required minimum distributions on 401ks. Let's raise it from 70 and a half to 72. But it wasn't because the government was saying, hey, we're going to help you so you don't have to actually take this and then pay taxes. We don't want you taking all this money out of the stock market right now. That's the way I look at it.
Well, think about when the moratorium on required minimum distributions was made in 2020. You know,
Mhm.
you don't have to take your RMD in 2020 if you don't want to.
Okay.
Well, think about when that happened. That happened as the market took a nosedive, and the futures of the market looked like it was going to stay down there for a long time.
Right.
Now Nancy's over there scratching her head going, well, I don't want them taking money out now, because if they take money out of their IRA when their account balance is lower, I think that means we get less tax. So let's make
Exactly.
a deal with the American public. It'll really benefit us. You don't have to take your money out of the IRA until the account balance goes back up. And
Back
when the
up and
account
our
balance
tax
goes back
bill
up,
goes.
we get more money. So
Yeah.
don't let Nancy confuse you. When she says she's doing something good for you, but that has nothing to do with it. It's what has everything to do, which is good for the government in regards to these qualified plans. This happened once before to us. I think it was in '08. Everything died, no RMDs.
Right.
And they think they're doing us a big favor. Baloney.
Yeah.
You know, if you take it out when the market's low and you pay a lower tax, but you get it right back in the same investment after taxes, and then the market recovers, you're not out anything other than you paid less tax. That's a good,
that's a good thing for us.
right.
But that's not how it's painted, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about what you call the combining of the savings and the borrowing strategy.
Yeah. I just did this with a client just yesterday. I had to help him understand that everything he's buying on credit. He's borrowing to buy everything. Now, he doesn't think he borrowed anything. He bought the car for cash. He fixed the roof with cash.
Yeah.
He is a cash payer.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, I don't pay any interest. I'm not going to borrow money. But you see, everything we buy, we finance. We either finance it from a bank who's going to charge us interest for 5 years, or we're going to finance it from ourselves, and we're not going to get interest forever.
Forever.
We're
never going to get interest on the interest.
When we pay cash, that money is out of the account and it will never, ever, ever, ever earn interest again. That's an eternity loan. And we have a problem with paying the bank interest for 5 years. Really?
Yeah.
Everything we buy, we finance. You either get interest or you pay interest. It's the same thing.
Yep. So like, yeah, and it compounds, and that kind of bleeds into it's I'm not going to steal everything from you, Bryan.
Feel free.
But
it goes like this. You borrow this much, but your account balance is lower by this much because the money was never in the account to compound. Now, I know this was something you wanted to talk about at some point, was uninterrupted compound interest.
Absolutely.
Well, uninterrupted compound interest is the key to everything. You can't dip into the accumulating interest account, because as soon as you do, you're on a different curve. It's flatter and it's longer. And Einstein has proven an idiot. I mean, think about people who are 55, 60, 65 years of age. They've had 30 years for their money to compound, yet they're still working. Why?
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
I thought the miracle was a miracle. I thought it was the eighth wonder of the world. Well, what Einstein never said was you can't spend the money.
Right.
It's the miracle of uninterrupted compound interest.
Right.
And life insurance pulls right in there, because life insurance is a kind of an account that will allow you to borrow from your dead self, i.e. your death benefit, allow your money to continue to compound uninterrupted. And when you default on the loan, which is when you die, then they recover all the loans that were outstanding from your death benefit against the equity in your account. And they give your heirs everything that's left, all the way up to what the account balance would have been had you lived to be 100. Now, we only go there when the client understands that they have a problem in interrupting their compounding. But if they don't own the fact that everything they buy, they finance, we don't go there.
Yeah, when you and I first met just recently, when we had the conversation, I mean, I asked you if these books were on Audible, and of course I could have looked, but they're not, because the graphs, especially in the capital equivalent value book, showing that interruption and what it does to the curve, right, is that speaks such volumes, which you can't do on audio, right?
Well, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah, and it's clear as day when you see, oh, I just took that money. I took it off the table. So it cannot climb the same way. So whole life insurance is the vehicle to allow you to do that, right?
Right, because you don't have to interrupt it. You're
Yeah.
merely spending your death benefit.
Yeah. And you did say my eyes would be like saucers after reading that book.
Were they?
And I said, how is he going to make $1 million spend like 4 million? How is that going to come out? And I saw it. I saw it in text. Can you speak to, like, people are sitting here probably watching this and saying, this is a scam. This is somebody trying to sell life insurance. This is not somebody who's really looked, what does this guy know? You know, what do we both know about money and finances? We're just two guys. It sounds so almost hokey, right? Because it's so far from the mainstream. It sounds hokey, right?
But it's simple. It's not, John, it's all about not interrupting your compounding.
Yeah.
If you got $1 million, you can make it spend like 4 million as long as you don't spend it. As long as you leverage the million and borrow from the account. Actually, you're not borrowing from the account, you're borrowing from the financial institution, and you never spend your million. It continues to grow and it will spend like 4 million. Now, it doesn't do it just in and of itself. The tax code plays a part in this. And sometimes, you know, people will say, well, I don't like life insurance. And I'll say, well, I didn't either until I read the tax code, and I like what the tax code says about life insurance. I like that more than I like life insurance. It just happens to be the vehicle that the tax code has given us the advantages over. So you may not want life insurance, but you may want what the tax code provides for you through life insurance. Okay.
Perfect.
But as long as we can not interrupt our compounding, our accounts will grow. Now, it doesn't occur in and of itself out of the life insurance contract, but this is where the tax code comes into play. Any loan that we take, and think about it, John, when you bought your home, you took a mortgage out. Did you have to show the value of the mortgage on your tax return as taxable income?
No.
No. When you bought your car from the bank on credit, did you have to show the $50,000 loan to buy your car? No. Loan proceeds have never been taxable income for as long as the temporary income tax code has been around for the last 113 years. Okay, never. So if you borrow from your death benefit, that's not taxable income. It has nowhere to go on the tax return. It's better than a Roth, because a Roth has a place to go on the tax return. This stuff has nowhere to go on the tax return. And if you have no taxable income, then you have no taxes. And if you have no taxable income, that means that you don't have to pay taxes on your Social Security. Now, that might be a revelation to some of the people listening.
Well, yeah, I mean,
taxable.
provisional income, you know, what that means is it's all this language that confuses people, right? Like you said, how many different types of income is there now? Like,
Right. But no one considers that taxes on Social Security might be worth $250,000 out of your cash flow in retirement. Now, if you don't think that, then you're not going to account for it. But right there, I've just taken my million and I've made it spend like $1,250,000, right? If I don't have to pay taxes on Social Security.
Right.
Well, then there's, you know, you'll always be in the lowest income bracket for that free health insurance called Medicare. Now, everyone thinks Medicare is free. It ain't free. You're going to pay at least $144 a month. You may pay 500 something a month. It depends on your income. And a loan from a life insurance contract is not income. It'll keep you at the minimum for the free health insurance that costs $144 a month this year. So when you account for it all, which a CPA, okay, account for it all, it's amazing. It allows you to take $1 million, it'll spend like 4 million. When you account for it all.
Yeah. So really what your focus has been is to try to have cash flow for people in retirement, but have absolutely no income in retirement.
Correct.
That's the focus.
That's
Yeah.
the focus.
Well, and that comes from someone who's looking at tax code and in trying to figure out how to do things correctly, what's best for my client, what's allowed, right? And that just, you couldn't continue down the same path, right?
Did
When
you know,
had,
John, did
once
you know
had
that,
that uncommon knowledge,
yeah,
you had to.
did you know the tax code does not require that you file a tax return in retirement?
No,
You're
I
not
did not know.
required to file a tax return. You're only required, according to the Internal Revenue Code, the only required tax is on earned income. When you trade your time for someone else's dollar, that's fair game.
Mhm.
There's nothing you can do about it. It's a
Sure.
pay me now or pay me later. Because a lot of
Mhm.
people say, oh, I'm not going to pay my taxes. If I can pay them later, I'll pay them later. That's how 95-year-old people still have to file tax returns, because they chose not to pay taxes on the money they earned. If you pay your taxes on the money you earn and you stash it away for your retirement years strategically, you don't even have to file an income tax return.
That would be good. I don't like doing it now. I'm certainly not going to want to do it when I'm 90,
No kidding.
right?
Kidding.
Yeah. I think this all leads into, I'm going to bring something up personal. We talked a little bit about it earlier, and sadly, your younger brother, 5 inches taller than you,
Yeah. My little brother.
passed away in 2013.
Mhm.
And he gave you a lot of love and support. I'm sure you miss him a great deal. You dedicated one of your books to him.
Mhm.
And he also worked some of the principles that you share in these books. And I was wondering if you could share with the audience
Yeah.
a little bit about him and a little bit about, what he was able to do with some of these lessons that you talk about.
Sure. He was my first customer.
Mm.
Okay. And I exposed these ideas to him. Now, he would be a guy that you would define as someone who didn't need life insurance. He was, let's see, when he was diagnosed at 48, he died at 54, probably at age 40 is when he became my client,
Wow.
preferred risk. He didn't need life insurance because he wasn't married and he didn't have a family.
Okay.
So he didn't need it,
Yeah.
but he saw what could happen as he's planning for his retirement. And we took his 401k plan and we looked at what it might be worth in the future. And then we talked about taxes, and he believed taxes would go up.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about the logic of paying taxes now or paying taxes later. And he saw the benefits of life insurance to finance your retirement. And he bought into the whole idea. Now, unbeknownst to him, because we never really talked about the death benefit because he didn't need it, what the insurance company did was they took a look at his committed premium, that which he was going to put into the life insurance contract. They took a look at their dividends, and they basically made this promise. They said, Jeffrey, if you put this much money in and we pay this much in dividends, your account will be worth this much at age 100.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't make it to age 100, we'll pay that balance anyway to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That's a death benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 18 years later, he's still not married and he didn't need life insurance, but he named his nieces, my daughters, as his beneficiary. Well, he named our parents first,
Mm-hmm.
and my nieces second. And what he left behind was not his retirement, but what he left behind would have been all the money he would have received during his retirement that he didn't live long enough to get. He left that to our parents and eventually to my daughters. My mom and dad, my mom's still living. She's 93. She has nothing to worry about.
Mm.
nothing to worry.
Due in fact to this.
Do in fact, he had no idea that this is what he was doing. This was
Yeah.
all about him and his retirement, but yet because disaster struck, he made the lives of my parents easy street. He made financially, and he will eventually make the lives of my kids a whole lot easier because my mom can't spend it all.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I
Thanks
think
for
we
asking.
just, sure, of course. Yeah, that's the fact I try to share with some people when they say, I'm not focused on the life insurance, I don't really care about the life insurance. I don't know why I need to set it up this way and have why do I have some term insurance in there and all this, I'm an infinite banking practitioner, as you know. And I often come back and say, but there is the death benefit and there is benefit.
Yeah, there definitely is.
And I also say that whole life insurance companies are the best risk takers of all time. There is a day of reckoning for them. Whether you live or die, they got to pay.
Mhm.
And so there can't be a safer or more certain place for your money.
Mhm.
But then when you start to pick up Brian Bloom's books and start delving into all the benefits, it's hard to put that into one sentence. If somebody asked me what I do for a living and I said I'm a life insurance agent, that wouldn't tell them really anything. They'd have a perception of what that is. Or if I said I'm an infinite banking practitioner, they wouldn't understand what that is, right? And it's hard to have an elevator pitch.
Mhm.
I urge people, because there's a lot of books. I've considered writing a book, right? It's like, seems like, well, it'll help my credibility. It's a marketing tool.
Mhm.
But when I look at, actually, when I read The Truth About Life Insurance, Confessions of a CPA, The Truth About Life Insurance, I said, this is the de facto standard of what I'm trying to share with people. So I encourage my whole audience, your books, 2 of them, 2 out of 3 are listed up on my website. And I encourage them to read it and read it several times, get a highlighter. I'm in the business and I'm referring back to the nuggets of wisdom that you're sharing, that uncommon knowledge. And you talked about uncommon knowledge in a different way than what we've talked about today with the blind spot. You talked about the fact that so many of us are uncommon in our income. We think that, hey, we're just sort of middle of the road, or maybe we're a little bit above middle of the road. But in fact, we're at the top 25% or even higher, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe we can finish with that idea.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's sad when you think about your income as not being common.
Yeah.
If your income is uncommon, that means probably 75% of everybody else earns less than you, and you're barely making ends meet.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you think you're just common, then you're going to follow all the common advice. You're going to listen to the financial magazines that are available. Or I'm sorry, you're going to read the financial magazines that are available that are written to the masses. You're going to listen to the financial radio entertainers who are talking to the masses, who are talking to the common. But you don't consider yourself uncommon because we just don't.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of an inflated self-image to think you're uncommon. It's just natural to think ourselves as being common. But you have to understand who you are
Hmm.
written to you.
Somehow we froze up here, Bryan. I'm not sure whether you can hear me. Not sure what happened. I can't hear you, Bryan. We're still being recorded. Looks like you fell off, and I'll just wrap this up. I want to thank you so much for this conversation today. It means the world to me that you would take the time to do this. Share it with me. Share it with all that get a chance to watch this conversation in the future. Just want to leave everybody with the thought that we want to help. We want to show that there's other options. We think that you're not going to learn this, watching television, listening to the mainstream. This is uncommon knowledge. But those that know about it, that understand it, are implementing it. And I encourage you to do some due diligence and look into this and see if it might make some sense to you and help you in the long run, in the short run, in the long run. So thanks again, everyone. Take care.